The morning rush at Rosie's Corner Cafe was like every other Tuesday in downtown Portland. Steam rose from fresh coffee, the bell above the door chimed its familiar tune, and the worn linoleum floors told stories of 1,000 hurried footsteps. But for Samantha Miller, wiping down tables with the same methodical precision she'd perfected over 3 years of working here, this Tuesday would shatter everything she thought she knew about ordinary moments and extraordinary secrets. At 26, Samantha had mastered the art of reading her customers. The businessman who always ordered his eggs over easy but never looked up from his phone. The college student who nursed a single cup of coffee for 3 hours while studying. The elderly woman who came in every Thursday for tea and stories about her late husband. Each person was a familiar note in the symphony of her daily routine. That's why the girl in booth 7 immediately caught her attention. She was young, maybe early 20s, with shoulder-length auburn hair that caught the morning light streaming through the cafe's front windows. Her clothes were simple, almost deliberately plain. Dark jeans, a navy sweater that had seen better days, and worn sneakers that looked like they'd walked through half the city. But it was her eyes that made Samantha pause mid-wipe. They darted constantly toward the door, scanning each new arrival with the intensity of someone expecting trouble. The girl had been nursing the same cup of black coffee for over an hour, her hands wrapped around the ceramic mug like it was an anchor. A half-eaten blueberry muffin sat untouched on the plate beside her, crumbs scattered across the table's surface. She kept checking her phone, not with the casual scroll of someone browsing social media, but with the sharp, urgent glances of someone waiting for critical news. Samantha approached the booth, her practiced smile in place. "Can I get you a fresh cup?" That one's probably gone cold by now. The girl looked up and for a moment Samantha saw something flash across her features. Not just nervousness, but genuine fear. "Oh no, I'm fine. Thank you." Her voice was soft, cultured, with the kind of careful diction that spoke of expensive education and careful upbringing. "You're sure? You look like you could use something stronger than coffee." Samantha's tone was gentle, the kind of warmth she'd learned to offer customers who seemed to be carrying invisible burdens. The girl managed a weak smile. "I'm just waiting for someone." She glanced toward the door again, then back to Samantha. "Actually, could I ask you something? Do you ever get people in here who seem to be looking for someone specific? Like, really looking?" The question was odd, loaded with an anxiety that made Samantha's protective instincts kick in. She'd seen enough troubled customers to recognize when someone was in genuine distress. "What kinds of looking are we talking about? The kind where they're not really here for coffee." The girl's grip on her mug tightened. "The kind where they ask questions about customers, show pictures, maybe offer money for information." Samantha felt a chill that had nothing to do with the autumn air seeping through the cafe's old windows. She slid into the booth across from the girl, keeping her voice low. "Honey, are you in some kind of trouble? Because if you are, there are people I can call, places you can go." The girl's eyes widened and she shook her head quickly. "No, it's not like that." "It's complicated." She paused, studying Samantha's face as if trying to decide how much trust to place in a stranger. "I'm Anna Morrison." Samantha extended her hand across the table. "Samantha Miller. Most people just call me Sam." She waited for Anna to shake her hand, noting how cold her fingers were despite the warm cafe. "So, Anna Morrison, what's got you looking over your shoulder every 30 seconds? Anna let out a shaky breath. "My family. They're looking for me, and I really don't want to be found right now." She gestured around the small cafe with its mismatched furniture and faded photographs of old Portland. "This place, it's perfect because it's exactly the kind of place they'd never think to look." Running away from home. Samantha kept her tone neutral, non-judgmental. She'd seen her share of kids from wealthy families who thought disappearing for a few days would teach their parents a lesson. "Something like that." Anna's laugh was bitter, hollow. "Though I'm probably a little old for running away to be romantic or rebellious." Samantha studied the girl more carefully. The worn clothes, the nervous energy, the way she spoke about her family with a mixture of love and exhaustion. There was more to this story, layers that Anna wasn't ready to reveal. "Well, you're welcome to stay as long as you want. Coffee's cheap, and I make a mean grilled cheese if you get hungry." "Thank you." Anna's relief was visible, her shoulders dropping slightly. "I know this probably seems crazy. A grown woman hiding in a cafe like some kind of fugitive. We all run from something sometimes." Samantha's voice was gentle. "The question is whether we're running towards something better or just, running." Anna considered this, her fingers tracing the rim of her coffee cup. "I'm not sure yet. Maybe both." The bell above the door chimed again, and Anna's head snapped up, her entire body tensing. A man in an expensive suit entered, his eyes scanning the cafe with professional thoroughness. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with the kind of bearing that suggested military or security background. His gaze lingered on each occupied table before moving to the next. Anna sank lower in her booth, her face pale. Oh no. Samantha followed her gaze, taking in the man's deliberate movements, the way he seemed to catalogue every face in the room. When his eyes reached their booth, they paused for a moment on Anna before moving on. But something in his expression suggested recognition. A predator who had caught the scent of his prey. "Friend of yours?" Samantha kept her voice casual, but her mind was already working, calculating exits and options. "Not exactly." Anna's voice was barely a whisper. "More like an employee of the family." The man approached the counter where Rosie, the cafe's owner, was working the register. Samantha couldn't hear their conversation from across the room, but she saw the man pull out his phone, showing Rosie something on the screen. Rosie glanced toward their booth, her expression uncertain. "We need to go." Anna started to rise from her seat, but Samantha placed a gentle hand on her arm. "Not yet. If you bolt now, you'll just confirm what he's thinking." Samantha's years of customer service had taught her how to think quickly under pressure. "Trust me for a minute." She stood up and walked casually toward the counter, intercepting the conversation between Rosie and the stranger. "Hey, Rosie, is everything okay? This gentleman looks like he might be lost." The man turned to face Samantha, his smile polished and professional. "Actually, I'm looking for someone. A young woman, early 20s, auburn hair. Her family is very worried about her." He showed Samantha the phone screen, and she found herself looking at a professional photograph of Anna. But this wasn't the nervous, casually dressed girl hiding in booth 7. This Anna was polished, elegant, wearing what looked like a designer dress and jewellery that probably cost more than Samantha made in a year. "Pretty girl." Samantha kept her expression neutral. "Is she missing?" "She left home without telling anyone where she was going." Her father is beside himself with worry. The man's tone was smooth, reasonable, but something in his eyes made Samantha's skin crawl. "Have you seen her?" "I have reason to believe she might have come through this area." Samantha glanced back toward booth 7, where Anna sat frozen, listening to every word. The girl's terror was real, visceral. Whatever her story was, whatever had driven her to hide in a rundown cafe on the wrong side of town, she was genuinely afraid of being found. "Sorry, can't help you." Samantha's voice was steady, convincing. "We get a lot of people through here, especially young folks from the college. Hard to remember one face from another." The man studied her for a moment, his professional smile never wavering. "I understand. But if she does come in, her family would be very grateful for any information. Very grateful." He pulled out a business card and placed it on the counter. "There's a substantial reward for information leading to her safe return." Samantha picked up the card, noting the expensive cardstock and embossed lettering. "Marcus Webb, private investigator. No company name, just a phone number." "How substantial are we talking about?" "Enough to make it worth your while." Webb's smile became more genuine, as if he'd found the angle that would motivate her. "Her family has significant resources. They just want their daughter back safe." "I'll keep that in mind." Samantha pocketed the card. "But like I said, I haven't seen anyone matching that description." Webb nodded, his gaze sweeping the cafe one more time. His eyes lingered again on booth 7, but Anna had slumped down far enough to be mostly hidden behind the booth's high back. "Thank you for your time. I'll be in the area for a while, so if anything comes to mind, please call." He left his card with Rosie as well, emphasizing the reward one more time before heading toward the door. As he reached for the handle, he turned back one final time, his eyes finding Samantha's. Sometimes people think they're helping someone by hiding them. But family is family. They always find each other in the end. The threat was subtle, but unmistakable. Webb pushed through the door, the bell chiming his exit, but Samantha could see him through the window, standing on the sidewalk making a phone call. She walked back to booth 7, where Anna sat trembling. "He's gone, but not far. We need to talk, and we need to talk now, because that man didn't just stumble into this cafe by accident, and you're not just some college kid having family drama." Anna looked up at her, tears threatening to spill over. "You don't understand what you're getting involved in." "Then explain it to me." Samantha slid back into the booth, her voice firm but kind. "Because Anna Morrison, whoever you really are, you're about to drag me into something that feels a lot bigger than a family dispute. And I deserve to know what I'm dealing with before I decide whether to help you or hand you over to that very polite man with that very expensive business card." Anna's hands shook as she wrapped them around her coffee cup, the ceramic providing little comfort against the storm brewing in her chest. She looked at Samantha, this stranger who had just risked her own safety to protect someone she barely knew, and felt the weight of 3 months of deception pressing down on her shoulders. "My real name is Anna Catherine Blackwood." The words came out in a whisper, each syllable feeling like a betrayal of the careful anonymity she'd built. "My father is Harrison Blackwood." Samantha's expression didn't change immediately, but Anna saw the moment recognition hit. The slight widening of her eyes, the way her posture shifted, almost imperceptibly. Everyone knew the Blackwood name. Harrison Blackwood owned half the tech companies on the West Coast, had his fingers in everything from renewable energy to artificial intelligence. His face graced the covers of business magazines, and his opinions moved stock markets. "The Harrison Blackwood." Samantha's voice was carefully controlled. "The one who just donated $50 million to rebuild the children's hospital downtown." "That's him." Anna's laugh was hollow, brittle. "My father, the philanthropist, the visionary, the man who thinks love means control and protection means surveillance." She gestured toward the window where Webb had been standing. "That's what protection looks like in the Blackwood family. Men in expensive suits hunting you down when you dare to want something different." Samantha leaned back in her seat, processing this revelation. The girl across from her wasn't just wealthy, she was wealthy beyond comprehension. The Blackwood fortune was estimated in the billions, built on Harrison's genius for predicting technological trends and his ruthless ability to acquire or destroy competition. Anna wasn't just some rich kid rebelling against daddy's rules. She was walking away from an empire. So, what happened? Samantha kept her voice gentle, but her mind was racing. What made the daughter of one of the most powerful men in the country end up hiding in a cafe, wearing clothes that looked like they came from a thrift store? Anna pulled her sleeves down over her hands, a gesture that made her look younger, more vulnerable. 3 months ago, my father announced my engagement to Marcus Whitfield, the son of his biggest business partner. A merger disguised as a marriage, except nobody bothered to ask me what I wanted. The pieces were starting to fall into place. Samantha had seen enough controlling relationships to recognize the pattern, but this was control on a scale she'd never imagined. "You ran away from your own engagement." "I tried to talk to him first." Anna's voice grew stronger, anger cutting through the fear. "I told him I didn't love Marcus, that I barely knew him, that I had my own plans for my life. You know what he said? He said love was a luxury I couldn't afford, that my responsibility was to the family, to the company, to the legacy." She looked directly at Samantha, her eyes blazing. He said I was being selfish for wanting to choose my own future. Samantha felt a familiar knot of anger in her stomach. She'd grown up in foster care, bouncing between homes where adults made decisions about her life without consulting her. The circumstances were different, but the fundamental violation felt achingly familiar. So you left? I emptied my personal accounts, bought the most ordinary clothes I could find, and walked out during my engagement party. Anna's smile was fierce, proud. 200 of Portland's elite, including 3 senators and the governor, all waiting to celebrate my sacrifice on the altar of corporate expansion. I hope they enjoyed the champagne without the bride. The audacity of it was breathtaking. Samantha tried to imagine the chaos Anna's disappearance must have caused, the embarrassment, the financial implications, the sheer public spectacle of it all. That took guts or stupidity. Anna's bravado flickered. I've been living in a studio apartment in southeast Portland, working at a bookstore under a fake name. It's the first time in my life I've ever been truly alone, truly free to make my own choices. And I love it. I love the independence, the anonymity, the fact that nobody expects anything from me except showing up on time and knowing where the poetry section is. Samantha glanced toward the window. Webb was gone, but she had no doubt he'd be back. Men like that didn't give up easily, especially when they were working for someone with Harrison Blackwood's resources. But they found you. I got careless. Anna's voice was thick with self-recrimination. I used my real credit card at a grocery store last week. Just once, because I was buying medicine for my neighbour's sick kid, and I didn't have enough cash. 5 minutes of stupidity, and now they're closing in. The bell above the door chimed again, and both women tensed. But it was just Mrs. Chen, the elderly woman who came in every morning for green tea and a blueberry scone. Samantha waved at her, the familiar gesture helping to ground her in the normalcy of the moment. So, what's the plan? Samantha asked, turning back to Anna. Because that man isn't going to stop looking, and your father clearly has the resources to turn over every rock in the city. Anna's composure finally cracked. Tears spilled over, running down her cheeks as 3 months of carefully controlled emotions broke free. I don't have a plan. I thought I had more time, thought I could figure something out before they tracked me down. I've been so naive, thinking I could just disappear and live like a normal person. Samantha reached across the table and took Anna's hand. The gesture was instinctive, born from years of comforting customers who were having the worst days of their lives. Hey, look at me. You made it 3 months on your own. That's not naive. That's incredible. Most people in your situation wouldn't have lasted 3 days. But what happens now? Anna's voice was small, defeated. I can't go back. I won't go back, but I can't keep running forever either. Eventually they'll find me, and when they do, we'll deal with it. The words surprised Samantha as much as they seemed to surprise Anna. Wait, you don't even know me. This isn't your problem. Samantha considered this, thought about the smart thing to do. The safe thing would be to walk away, pretend this conversation never happened, maybe even call the number on Webb's card and collect whatever reward money was on offer. She had her own problems, her own bills to pay, her own precarious life to protect. But when she looked at Anna, she saw something that resonated deeper than self-preservation. She saw a young woman who had chosen freedom over security, authenticity over comfort. Anna had walked away from everything most people would kill for because she refused to let someone else write the script of her life. You're right, I don't know you. Samantha's voice was steady, certain. But I know what it feels like to have other people make decisions about your life. And I know that sometimes the most important thing you can do is help someone who's trying to save themselves. Anna stared at her, hope and disbelief warring in her expression. You could get in serious trouble. My father doesn't forgive people who interfere with his plans. Let me worry about your father. Samantha pulled out her phone and started scrolling through her contacts. I've got some friends who might be able to help. people who know how to disappear when they need to, how to stay invisible, even when powerful people are looking. Why would you do this for me? Samantha met her eyes, seeing not the billionaire's daughter, but the frightened young woman who had been brave enough to choose her own path. Because everyone deserves the right to write their own story. And because sometimes when someone's drowning, you throw them a rope first and ask questions later. She found the contact she was looking for and hit dial. Marcus, it's Sam from the cafe. I need a favour, and it's the kind where you don't ask too many questions. The voice on the other end was gravelly, weathered by years of cigarettes and hard decisions. Marcus Torino wasn't the kind of man you found in a phone book, but he was exactly the kind of man you needed when conventional solutions fell short. Samantha had met him 2 years ago when he'd helped her navigate a situation involving an abusive ex-boyfriend who thought restraining orders were merely suggestions. Sam, sweetheart, you know I don't do favours anymore. I do business. His tone was fond but firm. What kind of trouble are we talking about? The expensive kind. Samantha glanced at Anna, who was listening intently. I've got someone who needs to disappear for a while. Someone with very motivated people looking for her. How motivated? Private investigators, unlimited resources, family connections that probably reach into law enforcement. Marcus was quiet for a moment, and Samantha could hear him thinking, calculating risks and rewards. That's not a favour, Sam. That's a full-service operation. My rate is $5,000 up front plus expenses. Anna's eyes widened, but she nodded quickly, mouthing that money wasn't a problem. Samantha held up a hand, signalling her to wait. She's good for it, Samantha said into the phone. But Marcus, this isn't about money laundering or drugs or anything that's going to come back on us. This is about a young woman who doesn't want to marry someone her father picked out for her. Arranged marriage in Portland. What is this, the 1800s? It's complicated. Can you help or not? Another pause, longer this time. I can help, but not over the phone and not here. You know Burnside Park, the old amphitheatre? Meet me there in an hour. Come alone first. Let me get a read on the situation before I meet your friend. The line went dead. Samantha pocketed her phone and looked across the table at Anna, who was gripping her coffee cup so tightly her knuckles had gone white. He'll help, Samantha said. But we need to be smart about this. They're going to be watching this place now and probably any other coffee shop or restaurant in the area. We need to get you somewhere safe while I go meet with my contact. I can't ask you to do this. Anna's voice was thick with emotion. This is already so far beyond what anyone should have to do for a stranger. You're not asking. I'm offering. Samantha stood up, her mind already working through logistics. There's a back exit through the kitchen. Rosie won't ask questions if I tell her you're having boyfriend troubles. Can you get to the downtown library without using your phone or credit cards? Anna nodded, then hesitated. What if something goes wrong? What if they find out you helped me? Then we'll deal with that when it happens. Samantha's voice carried a confidence she didn't entirely feel. Right now, the most important thing is keeping you out of their hands until we can figure out a longer-term solution. She led Anna through the narrow corridor between tables, past the kitchen where Rosie was flipping eggs on the ancient griddle. The older woman looked up questioningly, but Samantha just mouthed, "Boyfriend drama," and received an understanding nod in return. Everyone who worked in food service had helped someone escape a bad relationship, at least once. The back door opened onto an alley that smelled of grace and urban decay. Samantha checked both directions before stepping outside, Anna close behind her. The autumn air was crisp, carrying the scent of rain and fallen leaves. Take the alley to Morrison Street, then head east toward the river. Stay on side streets, avoid main thoroughfares. The library has multiple entrances and exits, plenty of places to blend in. Find the local history section on the 3rd floor, back corner. I'll meet you there in 2 hours. Anna pulled a knit cap from her purse, tucking her distinctive auburn hair underneath. The transformation was remarkable, how someone who had grown up in boardrooms and country clubs could so easily become invisible on the streets. Samantha. Anna's voice stopped her as she was about to head back inside. "Why are you doing this?" "Really?" Samantha considered the question, thinking about the girl she'd been at Anna's age. 26 and angry, bouncing between foster homes and bad relationships, convinced that caring about anyone was just setting herself up for disappointment. She thought about all the times someone could have helped her but didn't. All the adults who had looked the other way when she needed intervention. Because sometimes the universe gives you a chance to be the person you needed when you were younger, she said finally. And because your father sounds like a controlling bastard who thinks money gives him the right to own people's lives. Anna's smile was the first genuine one Samantha had seen from her all morning. He really is. But he's also used to getting his way, which means he's not going to give up easily. Good thing I'm stubborn too. After Anna disappeared into the maze of downtown streets, Samantha returned to the cafe to finish her shift. The normalcy of wiping tables and taking orders felt surreal after the morning's revelations, but she forced herself to maintain the routine. Webb, or someone like him, would be back, and she needed to seem like just another underpaid service worker with nothing to hide. Rosie approached during the afternoon lull, her weathered face creased with concern. "That girl who left through the back, she in real trouble." "The kind that money usually causes," Samantha said carefully. "Rich girl running from rich problems? Something like that." Rosie nodded, understanding passing between them. She'd been running the cafe for 30 years, had seen every variety of human drama play out in her booths. "You need anything? You let me know. I got connections too, different kind than yours, but sometimes an old lady who knows everyone in the neighbourhood is more useful than you'd think." The unexpected offer touched Samantha more than she expected. This is what community looked like when it worked. People protecting people not because they had to, but because it was the right thing to do. At 4:30, she clocked out and walked the 8 blocks to Burnside Park. The old amphitheatre was mostly empty, just a few homeless individuals seeking shelter and some teenagers skateboarding on the concrete steps. Marcus was sitting on a bench near the back, reading a newspaper with the casual attention of someone who wasn't actually reading. He was in his 50s, with salt and pepper hair and the kind of face that had seen too much, but still retained a fundamental kindness. His jacket was expensive but worn, the uniform of someone who had money but didn't feel the need to advertise it. Sam. He folded the newspaper and gestured for her to sit. "You look good. Still working at the cafe?" "Still working at the cafe." She settled beside him, scanning the park for anyone who might be watching. "Thanks for meeting me. Tell me about the girl." Samantha gave him the abbreviated version, hitting the key points without revealing Anna's true identity. A young woman from a wealthy family, an arranged marriage, a father with extensive resources and no respect for his daughter's autonomy. Marcus listened without interruption, occasionally nodding. "How wealthy are we talking about?" he asked when she finished. "Wealthy enough that $5,000 is pocket change." "And how motivated is Daddy to get her back?" "Motivated enough to hire professional investigators and probably call in political favours if necessary." Marcus was quiet for several minutes, watching a group of pigeons fight over scattered breadcrumbs. When he spoke, his voice was thoughtful, measured. "This isn't just about hiding someone, Sam. This is about going to war with people who have resources we can't match. They've got money, connections, probably law enforcement contacts. All we've got is local knowledge and the willingness to bend some rules. Is that enough? Maybe. Depends on how smart we are and how lucky we get." He turned to face her directly. "But once we start this, there's no backing out clean. These kinds of families don't forgive and they don't forget." "You sure you want to make enemies of people who can destroy your life with a phone call?" Samantha thought about Anna's face when Webb had entered the cafe, the genuine terror of someone who understood exactly what kind of cage they were trying to escape. She thought about her own history of being powerless while adults made decisions about her future, and the bitter taste of swallowing your own agency to keep the peace. "I'm sure." Marcus smiled, the expression transforming his weathered features. "Good. Because I was hoping you'd say that. Been a while since I worked a case where the good guys were actually good guys." He pulled out a small notebook and pen. Tell me everything you know about the girl. Real name, family details, what kind of resources she's got access to. If we're going to keep her hidden, I need to know exactly what we're hiding her from." Samantha took a deep breath, weighing the consequences of full disclosure against the need for Marcus's help. Anna's safety depended on complete honesty, even if it meant exposing herself to greater risk. Her real name is Anna Catherine Blackwood. Her father is Harrison Blackwood. Marcus's pen stopped moving across the page. He looked up slowly, his expression shifting from professional interest to something approaching alarm. Harrison Blackwood, the tech mogul, the one who owns half the companies in Silicon Valley. That's the one. A low whistle escaped Marcus's lips. "Sam, when you said wealthy, I was thinking local real estate developer or maybe a shipping magnate. Harrison Blackwood isn't just wealthy, he's untouchable. The man has senators on speed dial and probably knows where half the city council buried their bodies." "I know." Samantha's voice was steady, but her hands trembled slightly. "That's why she needs help. Someone like that doesn't just let his daughter walk away from a billion-dollar merger disguised as a marriage." Marcus closed his notebook and leaned back on the bench, his mind clearly racing through implications and complications. "The investigator who came to the cafe, what was his name?" "Marcus Webb. Professional-looking guy, expensive suit, military bearing." "I know Webb. Former FBI, went private about 5 years ago. He specializes in corporate espionage and family matters for high net worth clients. If Blackwood hired him, this isn't amateur hour. Webb's got contacts in every major law enforcement agency on the West Coast. The weight of what they were up against settled over Samantha like a lead blanket. She'd thought they were dealing with an overprotective father and some hired muscle. This was something else entirely, a machine of power and influence that could crush them without breaking stride. "Are you backing out?" she asked, trying to keep the desperation from her voice. Marcus was quiet for a long moment, watching the teenagers practice tricks on their skateboards. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of hard-earned wisdom. 30 years ago, I worked a case that still keeps me up some nights. Corporate whistleblower. Guy who discovered his company was dumping toxic waste into a river that supplied drinking water to 3 counties. He came to me for protection, wanted to go public with the evidence. He paused, lost in the memory. I told him it was too dangerous, that he should take the money they offered him to stay quiet and disappear. Convinced him that fighting people with that much power was suicide. Marcus's hands clenched into fists. 6 months later, I read in the paper that 53 people had died from contaminated water. Kids, mostly. Could have been prevented if I'd had the guts to help him fight instead of teaching him to run. Samantha felt something shift in the conversation, a moment of reckoning that would determine whether Anna had a chance or not. "I'm not backing out," Marcus said firmly, "but we need to be smarter than I've ever been, and we need to move fast." Blackwood's probably got a team of investigators working this, not just Webb. They'll be systematic, thorough, and they won't stop until they find her. Relief flooded through Samantha, followed immediately by a fresh wave of anxiety. "What's the plan?" "First, we get her out of the city entirely. Portland's too small, too connected. Everyone knows everyone, and Blackwood's got enough local influence to make staying here impossible." Marcus pulled out his phone, scrolling through contacts. "I've got a friend who runs a cabin rental business up in the Cascades, off-the-grid places that don't require credit cards or ID verification. We can get her hidden while we work on something more permanent." "How permanent are we talking about?" "That depends on how far she's willing to go. New identity, relocation to another state, cutting ties with her old life completely. It's not easy and it's not cheap, but it can be done." Marcus's expression grew serious. "The question is whether she's ready for that level of commitment. Running away for 3 months is one thing. Disappearing forever is something else entirely." Samantha thought about Anna's fierce determination when she described her engagement party escape, the way her eyes had blazed when she talked about choosing her own future. She's ready. The question is whether she can afford it. Money won't be the problem. Blackwood's daughter probably has access to accounts he doesn't monitor closely. The problem will be accessing them without triggering alarms. Marcus stood up, pocketing his notebook. Where is she now? Downtown library, local history section, 3rd floor. Good choice. Public place, multiple exits, easy to blend in. But we can't leave her there long. Webb's probably got people checking every library, coffee shop and bookstore in the city. Marcus checked his watch. It's 5:15 now. I need an hour to make arrangements, then we move her tonight. What do you need me to do? Go back to the cafe, act normal. If Webb or anyone else comes around asking questions, you've never seen the girl in the photo. Stick to that story no matter what they offer or threaten. Marcus's voice turned hard. These people will try to buy you first, then intimidate you. If that doesn't work, don't let them do either. And after we get her to the mountains, we figure out what kind of life Anna Blackwood wants to build, and then we help her build it. Marcus started walking toward the park's exit, then turned back. Sam, you need to understand something. Once we do this, there's no going back to your quiet life serving coffee and staying invisible. You're going to be on Harrison Blackwood's radar, and that's a dangerous place to be. Samantha considered this, thinking about the small apartment she rented month to month, the job that barely paid her bills, the careful anonymity she'd cultivated since aging out of the foster system. It wasn't much of a life, but it was hers, and it was safe. Then she thought about Anna's face when she'd described her father's announcement of her engagement, the casual way he dismissed her agency as selfishness. She thought about powerful men who believed their money gave them the right to own other people's choices, and the young woman who'd been brave enough to say no. I can live with being on his radar, she said finally. I can't live with knowing I had the chance to help and didn't take it. Marcus smiled, the expression warm and proud. Your friend is lucky to have you fighting for her. She's not my friend, Samantha corrected. I barely know her, but that doesn't matter. What matters is that everyone deserves the right to write their own story. The walk back to the cafe gave Samantha time to process the magnitude of what she'd committed to. In the space of a few hours, she'd gone from serving coffee to planning the disappearance of one of the most powerful men in America's daughter. The rational part of her mind screamed that she was in over her head, that she should walk away before she got dragged down with Anna. But the rational part of her mind had never been very loud. It was the part that had kept her mouth shut in foster homes when she'd witnessed abuse. The part that had told her to accept mediocrity because fighting for better was too risky. She'd spent most of her adult life listening to that voice, and it had given her a small, safe, meaningless existence. The cafe was busy with the after-work crowd when she returned, office workers grabbing coffee before heading home to their suburban lives. Samantha threw herself into the familiar rhythm of taking orders and making small talk, but her eyes kept drifting to the window, watching for expensive suits and predatory smiles. At 6:30, as she was cleaning the espresso machine, the bell above the door chimed. Marcus Webb entered, accompanied by a woman in a tailored black coat. She was older, maybe mid-40s, with the kind of sharp intelligence that suggested law enforcement or corporate security. They chose a table near the window, positioning themselves with clear views of both the entrance and the back corridor. Samantha's pulse quickened, but she forced herself to maintain her routine. They were here to watch, to wait to see if Anna would return to the last place she'd been spotted. The key was to give them nothing to work with, no tells or nervous gestures that would suggest she knew more than she was saying. "Excuse me, miss." Webb's voice was polite, professional. "Could we get 2 coffees? Black?" Of course. Samantha's smile was perfectly calibrated, friendly, but not overeager. "Anything else? We've got fresh apple turnovers if you're interested." "Just the coffee." The woman spoke for the first time, her voice carrying the crisp authority of someone used to being obeyed. "Actually, I wonder if you could help us with something. We're looking for a young woman who might have been in here earlier today." Webb pulled out his phone, showing Samantha the same professional photo he'd shown Rosie that morning. Auburn hair, early 20s, probably would have seemed nervous or agitated. Samantha studied the photo with the careful attention of someone genuinely trying to be helpful. Pretty girl. Is she in some kind of trouble? Her family is very worried about her. the woman said smoothly. She left home without telling anyone where she was going, and they're concerned for her safety. That's awful. Samantha's concern sounded genuine, practiced. I wish I could help, but I don't think I've seen her. We get a lot of young people through here, especially from the college. They all kind of blur together after a while. Webb and the woman exchanged a glance, some silent communication passing between them. You're sure? Webb pressed gently. Maybe she was sitting alone, nursing a single drink for a long time. The kind of behaviour that would stick out. I'm sorry, but no. If someone like that had come in, I would have noticed. We try to keep an eye on customers who seem upset or distressed. Samantha began preparing their coffee, her movements casual and unhurried. Is there anything else you can tell me about her? Maybe something that would help me remember? She might have been asking questions about whether people come in looking for other people, the woman said, watching Samantha's face carefully. The kind of question that would suggest she was worried about being followed. It was a test, a probe to see if Samantha would reveal knowledge of Anna's specific concerns. The smart play was to deflect, to give them nothing while maintaining her helpful facade. That's oddly specific, Samantha said, allowing a note of curiosity to colour her voice. What kind of trouble is this girl in that she'd be worried about people hunting for her? Webb's smile was thin, professional. Family matters can be complicated. Sometimes young people make impulsive decisions they come to regret. Well, if she comes in, I'll definitely keep an eye out. Samantha set their coffee cups on the table, her movements smooth and natural. Is there a number where I can reach you if I see her? The woman handed her a business card, different from Webb's, but equally expensive. Ask for Sarah Chen. There's a substantial reward for information that helps us locate her safely. Samantha pocketed the card, her expression brightening at the mention of money. How substantial are we talking about? Enough to make it worth your while, Webb said, echoing his words from the morning. Her family has significant resources. I'll definitely keep that in mind. Samantha stepped back from their table, giving them space while maintaining the appearance of someone who might be motivated by financial incentive. Is there anything else I can get you? Not right now. The woman's smile was cold, calculating. But we'll probably be in the area for a while, in case you remember anything. The threat was subtle but unmistakable. They weren't just asking for help, they were establishing a presence. The message was clear. We're watching, we're waiting, and we know you're here. Samantha returned to her closing duties, acutely aware of their eyes following her movements. Every gesture had to be natural, every expression carefully controlled. She was walking a tightrope over an abyss, and one wrong step would send her tumbling into a confrontation she couldn't win. At 7:15, her shift ended. She clocked out, said goodbye to Rosie, and walked out the front door with the casual confidence of someone heading home to a quiet evening. Webb and the woman were still at their table, watching through the window as she disappeared around the corner. But instead of heading toward her apartment, Samantha ducked into an alley 2 blocks away, checking her phone for messages from Marcus. Nothing yet, which meant the arrangements were still being finalised. She had 45 minutes to get to the library, collect Anna, and somehow evade whatever surveillance Webb had undoubtedly arranged. The streets of downtown Portland felt different now, charged with potential danger. Every person in a suit could be working for Blackwood. Every lingering glance could signal recognition. Samantha forced herself to move with purpose, but not panic. Just another working-class woman navigating the urban landscape. The library was busy with evening patrons, students cramming for exams, and homeless individuals seeking shelter from the autumn chill. Samantha made her way to the 3rd floor, scanning faces and watching for anyone who seemed to be paying too much attention to their surroundings. She found Anna in the local history section, sitting at a corner table with a book about Oregon's early logging industry open in front of her. The girl looked up as Samantha approached, relief flooding her features. I was starting to think something had gone wrong, Anna whispered. Almost did. Samantha sat down across from her, keeping her voice low. Webb came back to the cafe with a partner. They're watching the place, probably have people at other locations too. She leaned forward, urgency sharpening her words. We need to move now. My contact has arrangements made, but we have to get out of the city tonight. Anna's face went pale, but she nodded with grim determination. Where are we going? Somewhere they can't follow, at least not easily. Samantha glanced around the library, noting the locations of security cameras and exit routes. But first we have to get out of here without being seen. They might be watching this place too. How? Samantha had been thinking about this during her walk from the cafe, considering the various ways to move someone undetected through a city where every street corner could hide an enemy. There's a service entrance on the building's east side, leads directly to the parking garage. We go down to the basement level, wait for the shift change at 8 o'clock, then leave with the maintenance crew. It wasn't a perfect plan, but it was better than walking out the front door into whatever trap Webb might have prepared. Anna closed her book and stood up, her movements careful and controlled despite the fear in her eyes. Anna, Samantha said quietly, once we do this, there's no going back. Your old life, your family, everything you've known, it's going to be gone. Are you ready for that? Anna looked at her for a long moment, and Samantha saw in her eyes the same fierce determination that had carried her through 3 months of independence. I've been ready since the night I walked out of my engagement party, she said firmly. The question is whether I'm strong enough to build something new. Then let's go build it. They moved through the library like ghosts, Anna's auburn hair tucked beneath her knit cap, Samantha leading the way with the confidence of someone who had navigated institutional buildings her entire life. The service corridor was exactly where Samantha remembered it, a narrow hallway that smelled of industrial cleaning products and forgotten maintenance requests. The basement parking garage hummed with fluorescent lights and the distant echo of footsteps. Samantha checked her watch. 7:58. The evening maintenance crew would be finishing their rounds, gathering equipment, preparing to clock out. She'd counted on the chaos of shift change to provide cover, but now, standing in the concrete cavern with Anna trembling beside her, the plan felt thin and desperate. There. Samantha pointed to a group of workers in navy uniforms wheeling cleaning carts toward a service elevator. We follow them out, stay close but not too close. Anna nodded, her face pale but resolute. They fell into step behind the maintenance crew, 2 more tired workers at the end of a long day. The elevator ride felt eternal, each floor marking another step away from safety and toward whatever Marcus had arranged in the mountains. The exit opened onto a loading dock behind the library, where white to collect vans waited the evening's cleaning crews. Samantha guided Anna toward the street where Marcus stood beside a battered Honda Civic, his expression tense with controlled urgency. In the end, what started as an ordinary Tuesday morning at Rosie's Corner Cafe became the moment 2 strangers discovered that sometimes the most important thing you can do is help someone write their own story. Samantha Miller, a waitress with her own painful past, chose courage over safety when she recognized the terror in Anna Blackwood's eyes. And Anna, the billionaire's daughter who walked away from an empire, proved that freedom isn't something you inherit, it's something you fight for. Their story reminds us that real power isn't measured in bank accounts or boardrooms, but in the courage to stand up for what's right, even when the odds seem impossible. Sometimes it takes a stranger's kindness to show us who we really are.